So welcome to tonight's webinar. Thank you so much for joining this consumer webinar to discover the secrets of a holistic approach to well-being during the cooler, darker months, as you can see behind me. We want to really just spend the evening exploring the power of natural health products in boosting immunity, enhancing sleep, managing our stress. And here's a bit of a sneak peek at what we'll cover. There's an agenda coming up. It's going to have a lot more information on it. But before we actually get into that, one of the things I wanted to do was just thank Healthy Planet. So it's a great opportunity to come in and speak to everybody. Healthy Planet's already a great community hub. We've done a couple of webinars in the past as well, and they've always been really well received. So I'm excited to see all the questions towards the end. In terms of how this is going to work, we're going to present all the information. And if you do have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat or the Q&A right away, because I don't want you trying to remember them as we're halfway through the presentation towards the end. So just make sure you're putting that in the chat as soon as possible. So without further ado, I just want to say welcome to tonight. In terms of our agenda for the evening, what I really want to talk about is just the herbs for immune support. I think that's something that we're all having trouble with right now. I know that friends of ours and family is dealing with pneumonia diagnoses and whooping cough and upper respiratory tract infections. So this is a time, as you'll see as we go through the presentation, where we are all together very closely. And so what we really want to make sure we're doing is actually looking after our health overall. And so when we're thinking about understanding infections, that's going to be another really important conversation as well. So when it comes to understanding infections, we want to learn how the infections actually spread within households and some of those practical tips to keep your family healthier this season. I put some images in the PowerPoint that I think you're going to be a little bit shocked about. So what does a cough actually look like? What does a sneeze look like? How far do they travel, to be honest? And then we'll talk about some lifestyle changes. We don't want it all to be, these are the things that are going to help you, just you. We want to give you tips that are going to help support your family as well. So let me just take you back to the early 1900s to a time when a young boy named Alfred Vogel, who was actually barely able to read or write, he wandered the countryside with his father. And I want you to picture this gentleman, and he's really wide-eyed, and he's collecting herbs and he's learning their medicinal use as well. Just want to make sure that we're able to see those questions coming through as well. There we go. Okay. So picture him kind of wide-eyed and collecting herbs and learning their medicinal uses from his grandmother as well. And what I'm really excited about is, can you imagine being introduced to plants not just for their beauty, but really as powerful healers? And if you're attending this webinar, I think that's something you inherently know, is that with these natural health products, you tend to feel good. So I want you to invite you how often we overlook the very nature around us, the plants that we often pass without a second thought. I've got a whole bunch of plants behind me as well, and I know I like to check in on them and make sure they're well taken care of. But what if the cure for all the different ailments has been at our feet or beside us all along? And Alfred Vogel believed it was, and he dedicated his life to actually proving that. And it's something that we do want to be quite mindful of, because what we're seeing here is a comparison of three major respiratory illnesses. We have influenza A, influenza B, and endemic coronavirus, and their peak activity patterns. And so as we enter the autumn months, you're going to notice more activity for influenza A. That's the blue line on the screen. And then influenza B, the green line, also starts to pick up. So October is a bit of that transitional period. It's temperatures dropping, people are spending more times indoors, and exposure to pathogens is going to increase. And it's a reminder to start fortifying your immune system now before that peak season strikes. So by December, that's when we're in the thick of flu season. That's right now when we're watching this. Maybe it's a recording or you're live. And influenza A is typically at its peak. It's the perfect storm. There's close gatherings, there's increased travel, there's cold weather. And meanwhile, endemic coronavirus, that red line, also rises during the holidays, adding another layer of risk. So this is why supporting your immunity during these weeks is really, really critical. And as we move into late winter and early spring, it might seem far away now, influenza B is going to take center stage with its peak activity around February and March. Influenza A does start to decline, but it is still active. So it makes this period a bit of a double threat for respiratory illness. And I don't want you to let your guard down here, because immune health is still key. And finally, by July, yes, July, we see all three of the illnesses at their lowest levels. But summer offers a bit of a reprieve because we have that increased outdoor activity, we have better ventilation, we have higher vitamin D levels from sunlight. But this is also a time to start thinking ahead. I want you to really, in the summer, think about building your immunity before the fall, because that can set you up for success in the next peak season when we go over to 2025. And so, what I wanted to think is with that transitional period, this is actually one of the avogel facilities over in Switzerland. That's actually the plants that are abundant in autumn and they're getting ready to be wintered. And that's actually at our facilities in the winter with some of the Swiss Alps in the background. It's not a bad place to look at, depending on where you're joining in Ontario. Maybe you have snow. If you're on the West Coast, maybe it's just a lot of rain right now. But one of the things I've always enjoyed about the company is that they are really trying to make products that work and products that help you. So every Avogel product, as we're going to talk about tonight, they undergo really meticulous testing for heavy metals, for pesticides, for microbial contamination. And each bottle is filled and packaged, ensuring really no detail gets overlooked. And it's a huge operation, and it's something that when it ends up in your hands, you know it's something that can help protect you in the upcoming peak season, as we just saw. I always joke with patients, you really want to be looking after yourself every month with R. So that is going to start in September, moving through all the way to April, and then, as we saw in that chart, a little bit more. So what I really want to do is explore some time-tested herbs that support immune function and help actually shield us and our families against cold and flu. So the first one we're going to talk about is echinacea. And the coneflower is one of the most important medicinal plants of the Native American tribes of the eastern parts and the prairies of North America. So in particular, we're talking the Lakota Sioux, we're talking the Cheyenne, the Omaha, the Kiowa, and its many potential applications. They got chronicled a lot. They got written down. Traders, trappers, and later in the early 20th century by ethnobotanists. And the botanists, some of them at the University of Kansas, they were able to demonstrate that the plant was used medicinally throughout all 19 tribes of prairie Native Americans. And its applications probably don't surprise you because they're things that you still use it for today. Sore throat. I've got the sore throat spray sitting right beside me because after all of this talking, I'm going to need something to soothe my throat. They actually used to use it for blood poisoning and snake bites. These aren't things that we're typically dealing with today, but I don't know, depending on where you're joining tonight's webinar, maybe you do deal with these things on the app, on the more frequent. In Europe, it's interesting because the coneflower species was actually initially used for decorative purposes. And so their medical potential was only kind of thought about in the 1930s and then researched deeply by scientists much later. As so often, this was naturopath Alfred Vogel, he played a pioneering role. So he was fond of telling the story of how he'd actually received his first echinacea plant. And due to the positive effects, he helped cultivate that plant across Switzerland. And it's become extremely well known throughout. And we know that its main applications are the prevention and treatment of cold and flu. And this is just, I always like a good little video to sum up all the active compounds. So what we're seeing on that little video right there is how echinacea's active compounds are what we call pharmacologically active. We've studied them at depth. We know they have really good activity in the body, and they actually help bolster and support our immune system to keep it fighting back against all the different pathogens that are constantly trying to get into our body. And again, we're going to talk about this more once we get into the infection transmission section. Sage, on the other hand, I think it's a really beautiful plant. It tastes really darn good if you're adding it to a recipe. Just made a roast with my family last week and used up the last of our sage from our herb garden. It was pretty sad, but the winter had gotten to it a little bit, but it still tasted darn good. And sage has a really long history of use as a spice, but also for health purposes. So it was actually used as a traditional herbal remedy in ancient Greece and Rome, as well as in Native American and Chinese medicine. And many of us are familiar with it and might have even used sage bundles to help cleanse a space. And that kind of continues its tradition to ward off evil or negative energy. And now that negative energy and evil is the pathogens that we find trying to get into our body. So we have to make sure that we actually help to take it out with really powerful antimicrobial herbs like sage. And then I also really like elderberry. I think it just looks cool. It looks like a really, really neat plant. It's got the green of the leaves, the beautiful, beautiful red stems of the plant, ending in these gorgeous dark, dark berries, which are rich, rich, rich in antioxidants. Think of all the other dark berries that you enjoy to eat, blackberries and blueberries and acai berries. The acai berries are often really good if they're covered in chocolate as well. I will say dark chocolate. But we like to use them in our products as well because it has such a powerful antioxidant capacity. But I think, we hear a lot about these medicinal herbs. One thing we also want to think about is other key plants. So plants that don't just spice up your meals, but they also really pack a serious punch for your immune system. And these are all probably everyday ingredients that you have in your kitchen, but they're natural remedies that you don't want to overlook. So ginger, I really like, is kind of the multitasker of the plant world. It adds a really good zing to your dishes, but it's also packed with anti-inflammatory benefits. It's been shown to help with digestion. So a nice lemon ginger tea after dinner, great way to soothe an upset tummy. Helps reduce nausea. Many of us have maybe used ginger chews in the past, or actually just made a fresh piece of ginger, cut it off, and put it in our mouth. A warm cup of ginger tea on a chilly day, perfect. That's self-care with benefits. And then we have garlic. Garlic isn't just great for keeping vampires away, it's actually a really powerful ally for your immune system. There's a compound in there called allicin. And that active compound in garlic really helps the body fight off cold and flu. And the best part is you don't need much. A few cloves added to your meals, that's going to do the trick. Just don't forget the breath mints because your partner is going to be upset if you just chew a whole bunch of garlic and don't do anything about it. The last one on there is turmeric. That's kind of the golden child of the spice rack. And when we're looking at turmeric, its active compound curcumin is really anti-inflammatory and helps reduce that inflammation. It helps put the fire out in the body. So a sprinkle in a warm turmeric latte, like a golden milk latte, that's a really great way to spice it up. Just make sure that you don't touch anything because it will stain everything you own. So I often, when my family gets sick, this is usually our protocol in the household, but I also add in a lot of those different herbs and plants as well. So I love adding ginger to my teas. I love adding the hot drink, the Force hot drink. So if I feel that tickle in the throat, then I'm going to start my Force Extra. That is the extra strength 1200 milligram dose. I'm going to take one tablet 3 times a day for 10 days. The bottle itself is 30 tablets, pardon me. So it's great to know that by the time I finish that 10-day protocol, I'll be done the bottle. It'll signal to me, oh yeah, okay, you went through the protocol. I'll often add in the hot drink because it's a combination of echinacea and that elderberry from what we saw before. So it just makes a really, really nice tea. We have a great local beekeeper who makes a beautiful blueberry honey, and they also make a raspberry honey. So oftentimes I've got their honey in the cupboard, and I'll add a little bit of that into my ginger elderberry tea as well. And then when I'm on the go, I'm often using this sore throat spray. The viruses and pathogens, they replicate at the back of the throat, an area called a pharynx. So with our sore throat spray, you'll notice the nozzle is incredibly long. And that's a good thing because it actually gets back. And that's why on the packaging, you'll see it actually says tonsillitis and pharyngitis because it can help reduce that inflammation in the throat. Fun fact, itis just means inflammation. It's Latin for inflammation. Colitis, pharyngitis, tonsillitis, meningitis, itis, inflammation. Now you know the secrets of the medical world. So this is actually one of the tea recipes that I make for my family. Oftentimes we've got the hot water in there, do some lemon. I really like a good tablespoon. I put a tablespoon, I kind of just dump it in and then stop when I feel like it of the hot drink. And I'll often add in the soothing cough syrup if I'm feeling a little bit of that more aggravated tickle in my throat too. And then you just combine it. And the cool thing is with the soothing cough syrup, kind of smells like its ingredient is Norway spruce. So it kind of smells like a Christmas tree. So when you are holding a cup of that, often I get distracted and just smelling the scent of the tea that I've prepared. But there are other products that are in there as well. So we've talked about a couple of them. We've talked about the extra strength. We've talked about the hot drink, which is the echinacea combined with the elderberry. And then we've also already talked about the sore throat spray a little bit, but there are other opportunities in there. So if you're someone who really enjoys, let's say, the tinctures are really easy to add into everything. If you carry around a bottle of water with you, super easy. Just add a couple of drops into that bottle of water, and then you're getting chronic immune prevention throughout the day, assuming that you're drinking that water bottle throughout the day. Maybe you're someone who just wants to prevent it with the tablets, the regular strength tablets taken every single day. Easy. You pop two of those in the morning or maybe before bed, and that's going to help protect you from actually getting sick in the first place. Because whenever I'm working with my own patients, I always say, don't wait until you get sick. There's nothing more miserable than lying on a couch and you've got that stuffy nose and it starts to transition into a sinus headache and everything sounds louder, including your own voice. You don't want to get to that point. So if you take something preventatively, you will reduce your risk overall. And if you do indeed get sick, your symptoms are going to be less severe. That sniffle and that postnasal drip into the back of the throat, not going to be as bothersome, which means you sleep better, you recover faster, you're not going to spread it around to your friends and family as easily, and overall, just you feel better. So it's a win. And the last one, if you do have kids, I think as a parent, how many times or grandparent have you felt that sinking feeling when your kid comes home with a runny nose, knowing that the whack-a-mole game of colds is about to start in your family? The kid often brings it home from preschool or kindergarten, and then the whole family eventually gets it. And then you're just kind of putting out fires like whack-a-mole with whoever gets it next. So with the Kinforce Junior, the thing I really like is it has clinical data on that, and I'll speak to that in a second. But we know that it can reduce sick days by about a third. So your kid's going to get sick by about a third. And I know for my kid patients who are on it, I actually have some right beside me because it tastes really darn good, has a natural orange flavor and no sugar, which is the best part. So you're not going to get these kids bouncing off the wall because you're giving them a sugar gummy or something like that. And the neat thing is, it's approved for kids who are 2 and up. So even for our youngest toddlers who are starting preschool or daycare, we can actually help support them too. So it's that kind of solution that you can really trust. And it's the same story every single time my patients discover it. Their daughter, was constantly catching colds at daycare and they felt powerless. But after they brought that into their daily routine, their kid is actually one of the only ones who is not getting sick all the time. So it's good opportunities. Prevention is absolutely the way to go. And the cool thing is, I talked about the research on the kids product, but our cold and flu line, we actually have 35 plus clinical trials. So many of Vogel's products are actually recognized as pharmaceutical grade in Switzerland, where they're held to the same standards as pharmaceutical medications. So that high standard is really reflected in the fact that this may shock you, but they're covered by public health insurance over in Switzerland. The Med line, doctors and pharmacists can actually write a prescription in Switzerland and provide that to their patients because it's so effective. So it's something that we benefit from in Canada, where we've brought that in. Canadians are benefiting from that commitment to quality, and the products are imported here and they maintain those same stringent standards. So that, to me, provides a lot of confidence in this natural healthcare solution. What I really want to talk about is, okay, so I have all these solutions, but I want to actually understand, how do these infections spread? Because I think understanding that crucial link is the missing part here. So what I want you to think about is, did you know that respiratory droplets can travel up to 6 feet in the air? You're going to see this shortly. So this is why staying mindful of our surroundings, especially in indoor spaces, is really critical during cold and flu season. High touch surfaces, those are going to be another source of infection. Because think about how many times a day you reach for your phone or you reach for your door handle. So understanding these pathways, if we're speaking to prevention, is the first step to protecting yourself and your family. This is actually a image taken from Western University. Many of you might be familiar with where that is in Canada. They actually have something called a cough chamber. So it's got this opening almost that you can kind of go into a little bit. And they've got all these really high speed cameras and lights that can capture a cough mid cough. And this is real. It's not one of those AI images or anything like that. So this gentleman is coughing, and you can see all the respiratory spray that is actually exiting his body. That is an important means of protecting ourselves from getting very sick. If a pathogen is trying to invade into my body, the first thing I need to do is make sure I'm pushing it out. And your body has all these excretion pathways. We sweat, that removes toxins. You always hear that line about how the skin is actually the largest detoxifying organ in our body. So you're getting rid of that through skin. You're getting rid of it by coughing, by sneezing, trying to get it out of your body. We trap things in the mucus in our nose, for instance, and we sneeze to remove it. Even your eyes, when you're tearing, it's a way to build up fluid, move the fluid along, and remove that pathogen. But it's not just this cough. What you see on this slide might look like something in a superhero movie. He's got that sonic shout, but it's all too real when we are considering how pathogens actually spread. So, breathing, even something as innocent as breathing, can release particles that travel up to 1 meter. And these tiny droplets might seem harmless, but in enclosed spaces, they're going to linger. And as they build up, they're going to quietly increase the risk of transmission. And then the second section, if we go a little further out, that's coughing. And a single cough, as we just saw, is like a pathogen delivery express. It's going to launch the droplets, the respiratory droplets that we just saw, at speeds of up to 10 meters per second. And that distance is going to reach about 2 meters. So imagine someone coughing at one end of a room, and those particles are potentially reaching the other side in mere moments. And last but not least, sneezing is where pathogens kind of really flex their muscles. So droplets can rocket out at speeds of up to 50 meters per second, traveling over 6 meters. That's the equivalent of a pathogen kind of long jump if you're into the Olympics. It's why sneezes are the biological equivalent of fireworks, but a lot less fun. The visual serves as a reminder of why simple measures like covering your mouth, wearing masks, keeping some distance can actually be really, really effective. With a sneeze capable of traveling over 6 meters, you got to think maintaining a bit of space in shared environments, if you're not feeling well or your friend isn't feeling well, it's not just polite, it's protective. So next time you're hearing the sneeze, don't just say bless you. You want to make sure that you've got your distance covered and your hand sanitizer ready. Because one of the things we want to do is, all right, I've been in a room, people have been coughing, people have been sneezing, and I want to recognize early symptoms because it's really easy to overlook early symptoms like a slight sore throat or a little extra fatigue. But recognizing these signs early can prevent infections from spreading within your household because flu symptoms often escalate quickly. Colds are usually milder, and if someone experiences a persistent fever, breathing difficulties, that's a signal to contact your care provider and have that conversation. Monitor it, right? Influenza, you often get the high fever and chills. COVID, some people are going to report changes to taste and smell. I have a number of patients with that. And when we look at simple things, we've talked a little bit about avoiding high contact surfaces. Just make sure you're cleaning it every once in a while. Wipe down the door handles, wipe down the faucets, wipe down the countertops. If you hand your phone off to your toddler to watch a YouTube video to keep them busy during a haircut, give it a good wipe after. Because you never know what they've been rubbing their hands in. They put their hands in everything, they put everything in their mouth. So that's all going onto your phone. So you just really want to make sure that you're actually cleaning it up afterwards. We know with hand hygiene, I'll show you a quite dramatic image in a second, can prevent about 20% of respiratory infections and diarrhea related illness. If I can save myself from any diarrhea related illness, sign me up. Then cross contamination, don't mix and match with people who are super sick. So, what we're looking at is study conducted by the University of Maryland School of Public Health. They revealed that the average person's hands carry about 3,200 different bacteria from 150 different species. And proper hand washing is really crucial in reducing the spread. So what we see is in the first image, that's before washing. It's covered in bacteria. And then rinse and shake. We kind of just quickly put water on and then shake it off. Didn't really do that much. This is 6 seconds of scrubbing without soap. So they've kind of just moved it around. You can tell they spent a lot of time on their fingers. This is 6 seconds with soap. Look at the top of their hand. They've removed a significant amount of bacteria on there. This is 15 seconds with soap. Amazing. We really look at the difference. And then last but not least, 30 seconds without soap or with soap. The only thing I'd be telling this person is, hey, you missed your nails. You got to focus on those a little bit more. But that's about it. So even your nails, just give them a nice little scrub a dub dub. So with travel season, it is coming up. So whether you're jetting off to somewhere sunny or just visiting your aunt in the suburbs, the one thing you don't want to bring is nasty cold. We've talked a little bit about this. So this is where kind of my seasonal travel kit comes to the rescue. And I think first up, we've got cinnamon nasal spray because as you'll kind of read on the left, airplanes are basically flying germ factories, and dry air cabins love to wreak havoc on your sinuses. If you've ever gotten on a long haul flight, gotten off, maybe you've been coast to coast, it is very dry after you land and you feel it. So this little hero is going to keep your nose hydrated and happy to help you breathe easier, even when you're stuck between a snorer and possibly someone who brought tuna salad as a carry-on snack. I make that joke, but that actually did happen. This gentleman had a little can of tuna salad, and I just thought, no, why would you do that to us? So don't bring that on a flight, is my advice. And then next, what we have is the sore throat spray, which is total lifesaver. And I think that feeling when your throat starts to kind of tickle mid-flight, again, really dry air cabin, and you immediately assume, oh, I'm getting sick, but maybe it's just dry. So a couple of sprays of that bad boy, I buy throat irritation. It's great. It works so fast. It's kind of what was the joke I was thinking there? First class comfort, even if you're actually sitting way back in 27B. And then what we're looking at is eye drops. So eye drops I really, really like because again, that dry air. And you're staring at a screen potentially. Maybe you're staring at your phone, you're playing Candy Crush or whatever. Or maybe you've got the movie on the little monitor in the headrest in front of you. So that can put a lot of strain on our eyes, and these drops will help keep them hydrated and lubricated. They've got hyaluronic acid in there, which holds onto a whole bunch of moisture, very common in beauty products for that youthful glow. And then as for the little Globetrotters, we've talked about this already. We've got a Kinaforce Jr. So what I want to do is keep the kiddos happy and healthy because nothing is going to say vacation disaster like a cranky sick child. And these chewable tablets, they're tasty. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got them right beside me because I like to just not eat them like candy, but they do taste pretty darn good. So that's really there you have it. And you have your personal travel kit. Think of these products as your health passport. They're going to help get you to your destination, ready to explore, so you're not stuck in bed sick when you show up. And I think the nice thing is they're all under 100 ml. So you're actually able to pack them in your little fluids bag and carry them on with you as well. So just make sure you have some room for them because you only get the one fluid bag. Otherwise, you have to toss it in your check bag. And air quality matters. We just talked about a dry, recycled air cabin on a plane. But we know that during the colder months, when we spend more time indoors, opening windows for even 10 to 15 minutes a day, that's going to really dramatically improve air circulation. If you have the ability to grab a HEPA filter, that's another fantastic option. That's going to capture 99% of airborne particles, including viruses. And lastly, don't forget humidity. We know that drier air is going to allow viruses to linger longer. And it's honestly just aiming for that comfortable balance. Too dry, things are going to start to dry out, including your mucous membranes, which makes you more prone to infection. And too humid, you're going to encourage mold growth in your home. But a lot of the more modern humidifiers, they have that ability to shut off automatically if they sense the humidity is getting above that 60%. Kind of talked about this a bit already, but holiday gatherings, we know that they can be a really big joy, and I'm looking forward to time with family and friends myself. But I'm also highly aware that they're a hot spot for spreading germs. So those simple measures like we talked about, you want to normalize those no contact greetings if you're not feeling your best. You make it lighthearted, such as I'm sharing holiday cheer, not germs. You want to consider staggering activities. So if you have a big gathering of people, maybe you make a little dessert zone, maybe you make a kid station, maybe you make a craft station. And that way you're spreading people out, not concentrating everybody really around the kitchen island or in the one living room where everyone just tends to gather. And then just be mindful. That's it. With a little creativity, you're going to have to keep that holiday spirit alive. And then you're actually going to prioritize your health and safety for everybody. So that's a little bit about spreading infections, what we can do about it, some solutions. But I also want to talk about some lifestyle changes. And we often get all of these separated aspects whenever we attend these webinars. And one thing I really wanted to do for us on tonight is just pull everything together, right? So we talked about what we're doing already with the respiratory transmission. When I get up in the morning, I want to make sure I'm really starting with immune strengthening activities. I always do my workouts in the morning because that really gets me moving for the day, gets my blood circulating. Maybe it is a brisk walk after I wake up and it's really, really cold. The ice is still on my car. I got to scrape that off later. But that's going to boost my circulation and it's going to activate my immune cells if I can get my body moving, even if it's 15 minutes. And always, always hydrating on waking. You haven't drank anything for 8 to 9 hours. Maybe it's 7. You're going, I don't get 8 hours of sleep. So you want to make sure you hydrate. You're going to be a lot more dehydrated in the morning. That's why urine tends to be so concentrated in the morning as well. And so that's one thing we want to work on. It's going to help dilute that blood waste that's built up overnight and regulate your blood sugars as well. And then protein's your friend. If you can start your morning with some good protein in the diet, that's the best way to start. And with that immune boosting, pick your favorite Echinoforce product. We just showed you all 6 of them. So you have your opportunity to pick amongst them for what actually matters for your lifestyle. Now, to keep your energy steady throughout the afternoon, you want to enjoy a balanced lunch. That's going to be something that is rich in lean proteins, rich in complex carbs, and then foods like grilled chicken. Maybe you're not a huge fan of chicken. You add some quinoa in there. Maybe you do some nutritional yeast and you make a really, really good dressing that you can drizzle onto a salad that's filled with beans, lentils, or chickpeas, anything like that. And then you can spice it up with some herbal mare. So this is the regular version of the herbed sea salt, but you can actually buy the spicy version, which I know it says spicy on there. You're going to be okay. Try it first if you're nervous. And then there's the potassium no salt version. So it's actually sodium free and really high in potassium, which helps bring down your blood pressure. So that's actually something that for my patients with high blood pressure, I often recommend they swap into their diet just to increase that potassium intake and reduce that blood pressure there. And a post-lunch walk. This should just be post-meal walk. There is so much good science and research that if you go for a movement break right after eating, within 30 minutes of finishing that meal, you are going to massively regulate your blood sugars compared to if you just sit and be sedentary right after. So we always joke in our own household, it's like, don't get to the dishes yet. Put them in the kitchen. We'll deal with it when we get back. We're going for a short 10, 15-minute walk just to get that movement break in. And it's great. You come back, you have fun, you put the dishes away, which I don't know, is that fun? But it feels a lot better when as a family you've gone out and enjoyed that time and that walking together. There's other ways though to relax. So I've talked a lot about movement, but maybe you're sitting there going, I don't want to do that. That's okay. Maybe that movement is something more natural for you, like gardening. If you're out in the garden, you're getting that movement break. And the great thing about that, it's been shown to decrease your stress hormone levels and it encourages a positive mood. I think nurturing plants is one of the best ways to just engage with the earth again, with nature again. We got yoga. Maybe you love yoga. That's okay too. Anxiety and cortisol, those are actually going to decrease following meditative yoga. There are so many great instructors on YouTube and websites like that you can go and easily find a class and an instructor that you enjoy. And then aromatherapy. I love using my Aroma Force essential oil. So I've got lavender, I've got eucalyptus, I have had the balsam fir essential oil diffusing pretty much for the last week and a half. We don't have our true yet, so it's just helping me get mentally into the idea that yes, okay, it's the holiday season. You smell that balsam fir, it's filling the house. It smells fantastic. And then you get into your evening wind down. So of course, you're aiming for a good, consistent sleep schedule. That's the main thing. You want it to be consistent. You're going to have some odd hours, but if you're trying to get your body into a routine, winding down, it's going to be more prepared when that time comes to just fall off into a nice quick sleep. But we'll talk about some other sleep solutions in just a minute. Limit screen time. You've heard this again and again. Don't be on your phones. Don't be doom scrolling on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, whatever your social media of choice is, because it is going to stimulate your body, right? It's a joke because one of our family members, he'll always play this video game with really, really hard boss battles right before bed. And these are really hard bosses, so it takes him sometimes 50 tries to beat them. It takes me a couple of tries. I've tried it again and again. And his heart rate, when you feel his little chest, it's just pounding because he tried to win this battle. That's not making for a good night, right? And then some herbal help. So there's relax spray, which I'll show you in a second. I really like that for when you're waking up, say around 4:30 a.m. and you're sitting there going, "Oh, my alarm is until 6. I just need an extra hour of sleep. That's it. I'll just take an hour, not even the full hour and a half." You don't want to take a sedative when you're waking up that close to your waking time. If you take a sedative, you're going to be extremely groggy. So I keep the relax spray beside my bed. And that way, when I do wake up at that time, a couple of sprays of relax spray just lulls me into enough of a sleep that I'm not feeling groggy because there's no powerful, potent sedative in that. It's a relaxant. The other one is the good night sleep sticks. You take these before bed. It's a melatonin-free option, which I love for patients who are trying to avoid that hormone. And the main thing is it helps with the entire sleep cycle. So it's going to help you fall asleep quicker, stay asleep, and wake feeling more refreshed. Because one of the ingredients is actually L-tryptophan, which gets converted into the happy hormone, which is serotonin. But L-tryptophan also gets converted into melatonin. So you take something that's actually going to get converted into things that make you feel happy and sleep better. That's a win-win on either side of the equation. But every body is different. You have different genes than I do. You have different health styles than I do. You have different lifestyles than I do, and each other, everyone on this call. So you want to customize it. There's a few things that you want to consider to make all of this information relevant to you and your family. Personalizing your immune support care plan is crucial because what works for me might not work for you. Start by assessing your health status to identify any deficiencies. If you've never tested yourself for different vitamin deficiencies, now might be a good time. Consider it for January, new you, new year. And that is going to help you identify anything that might require special attention. You want to align your strategies with your lifestyle. It's really easy to go online and for social media to make you feel like, oh, you have to eat this way or you have to exercise this way. No, you don't. Find what works for you. The exercise that you do is better than the one that you won't because you're forcing yourself to. And then be mindful of those environmental factors, such as seasonal changes, such as exposure risks. We talked about these already, and adapt your plan accordingly. Because when I kind of think of my calendar, this might be small depending on the screen that you're looking at this, but you can go back in the recording on Healthy Planet's YouTube and blow this up later. But we want to start with looking at the winter months. January, February, March, they are around the corner. This is prime time to focus on things like vitamin D. Sunlight's super limited during those times. We have the winter equinox coming up on December 21st, shortest day of the year. And A. Vogel's echinophores, as we've talked about tonight, it's a fantastic companion to help fend off cold and flu. We know low humidity is going to make your nasal tissues more prone to infection. We talked about that. So you want to combat it with eye drops or the cinnamon nasal spray, dry nose relief products to help maintain moisture. You want to incorporate indoor activities at this time. If you're a winter sport person, excellent, take advantage. But don't forget about the indoor sports too. Maybe it's Pilates, maybe it's spin classes to stay active despite the cold. And then for your plate, you're trying to lean into those citrus fruits like oranges, like grapefruits for a boost of vitamin C and immune support. And you don't want to forget to make space for your hearty greens like spinach and kale to fuel your body with those essential nutrients. This is my reminder, you got to eat your greens. And then as we move into April, May, and June, spring's really all about that renewal and that detox. So you might look at digestive aid complex to help you out. Really, it's a great time to prepare your system for the warmer months ahead. Then we get summer, abundant energy, optimizing health. Maybe you're looking at getting more omega-3 in your diet because now fish is on the menu. But you can also use the veg omega-3 that's in the Avogel product family as well if you're someone who's avoiding fish-based as well. So echinophores, like we saw, not a bad idea to even consider even in the summer months because as we dip into all the months with our September through April, prepare your immune system. And then as the year winds down, October through December, like we're in right now, that's going to bring colder weather and higher exposure to seasonal bugs. We talked about that. So that return to supplementation with vitamin D, vitamin C, echinophores, those are going to help build up your defense against respiratory infection. It's a really great time to focus even on strength training to help build that resilience and keep the muscle strong when you're indoors. And there's going to be some challenges, right? But I think maintaining, I'm not reading through all these, but maintaining immune health, it can be challenging. And I really want to recognize that we have busy lifestyles. There are seasonal stressors, but we know that effective time management, that's going to allow for the inclusion of brief movement moments and the preparation of nutritious meals. We know stress reduction techniques such as mindlessness, not that, mindfulness, that is what we want, can be seamlessly integrated into daily activities. And then when resources are limited, get creative. Frozen produce still retains nutritional value. So if you got too excited with your grocery shop and you're just not going to get to all of it, freeze some of the darn food. Use it later. Maybe use it in a soup or a stew. It still has nutritional value. You don't have to get rid of it unless it's really starting to turn funky colors and smells. Then you get rid of it. But we know that even a small space at home can serve as your personal exercise area. You don't have to have a whole big home gym with all the fancy equipment. Just do what you can with what you have. Consistency is key, and a small, sustained effort will lead to significant benefit. And if you're needing some of that support, then you have the full line of stress sleep options from Vocal. So you've got the deep sleep. That's kind of my knockout punch product. That's the one that I have when I'm sitting there going, I have a huge meeting tomorrow or have a full patient clinic day. I need to sleep tonight. I don't care why I'm awake right now. I need to sleep. That's my knockout punch product. And then, as we talked about earlier, you've got the good night sleep sticks. These, you just tear the powder off, you pour it in your mouth. I tend to hold it in my mouth for about 30 seconds. I find that lets it dissolve in my mouth a little bit more, and it absorbs into the lining of my mouth and my cheeks and gets into my bloodstream that much quicker. Helps me fall asleep. But if you'll recall, this is also the product that has L-tryptophan in it. That's the compound that converts into the happy hormone, serotonin, and melatonin. So as that L-tryptophan is converting in the blood overnight, it's going to turn into melatonin, which is going to keep me asleep, and it's going to turn into serotonin, which is going to make sure I wake up feeling really good to tackle the day. Maybe I'll flip open the window and call out to the birds, and they'll all come swooping in at me like Snow White. I'm kidding. You don't want me singing. All the birds would run away. And then we have the relax spray. I talked about that earlier too. That's one that came magically floating up on the screen for some reason. The big thing with relax spray is it doesn't have sedatives in it. Even on the packaging, it says for daytime. It's a great portable anti-anxiety spray that I often recommend to my patients. But at the end of the day, it's really good for when you wake up around 4:30 and you just need something to get you that extra hour without sedating you into grogginess. So that's the stress sleep lineup. There are other things in there. You can read about them or go talk to your local Healthy Planet staff. They are very knowledgeable. And then our cold and flu line. We talked about a couple of them, but they were in those little bubbles. So I just wanted to open up those bubbles and show you what that actually looks like. So you've got the regular strength Echinophores on the side. You've got the two tincture sizes. So like I said, easy to add into your water bottle. And that way you have that immune protection throughout the day. Got the junior products, both the 90 tablet version and the family size, which is 180. Typically just say go with the 180, especially if you have two kids, because then you're not fighting over, oh, I have to run out and grab another bottle because the kids ate all of them. They do taste darn good. So the kids might think about them like candy. It's like hiding vegetables in a smoothie or a recipe. Got the Echinoforce Extra. I said when I start to feel something or a family member does, that's going to be the product that now, 3 times a day for 10 days, keep to that protocol. Whether you start to feel better halfway through it, just get through the full 10-day protocol because nothing worse than you give up halfway through and then that cold and flu comes right back or that secondary infection that was hanging out comes right back. Got the sore throat spray. Great portable option. I actually use this before I go into clinic to protect the back of my throat in case I do inhale any of those respiratory droplets that we saw earlier. That is not a nice image that we want to see again, that big cough chamber. I've shown you too much. You've peeked behind the curtain. And the last one is the hot drink with the elderberry and echinacea blend. These two are cool because they've actually gone head to head with pharmaceuticals in those studies. Because if you'll recall, these are actually covered by public health insurance over in Switzerland because they are pharmaceutical grades. They work darn well, but they're natural health products, which is great too. So I really just wanted to say thank you so much. Everyone, you could have been anywhere this evening. Maybe you're listening to me while you're driving your car safely, I hope, and not watching me, just listening. Maybe you're sitting at home with your spouse. Maybe your kids are running around and you're looking at them going, oh gosh, you're coming home from preschool. What have you brought home now? So I really did just want to say thank you again to Healthy Planet for letting us come in and having a conversation with you about seasonal cold and flu. Going to leave that QR code up. I'll come back to it in a second, just when we get to questions. And really, I think as we meet here today, I just wanted to say thank you to Alfred Vogel. I think for me, being in the natural health world, it's hard not to feel a deeper connection to the plants, to the nature outside. And this is where, it becomes a bit personal because I remember the first time I used one of Vogel's Rebanies. It was a really cold winter evening. I had just started kind of playing around with the products and tried Echinophorus for a really persistent cough that I had. And it just got better so quickly, whereas naturally it would have hung around a bit. So I think that's what Alfred Vogel wanted us to experience. He believed that nature is not just a resource, but it's a partner in well-being. That's why we love Healthy Planet. So as we move forward, I want to take a moment to consider how can we better integrate nature and these natural health products into our daily lives, not just as those remedies we're using when we're not feeling great, but really they should be a way of life. So that's where we're going to end off tonight. I'm going to leave this up just as I get to the questions in case you want to pop over and see them on the Healthy Planet site. But really, I mean, I hope you got a good amount of information out of it. I know it's probably a lot, but you can go back and watch the recording too if you need some extra time there. So let me pull open the Q&A. Okay. Oh, okay. Immune support herbs during pregnancy. Okay, I'm really happy you brought that up. So, what I would say is that when it comes to our cold and flu products, the immune products, I'm going to flip right off this just for a quick second. Everything in here except for the sore throat spray is actually safe for pregnant nursing. I think we're one of the only immune products in the Canadian market that many products are safe for product nursing. So it's fantastic because how many options, if you're pregnant, you are always thinking and hyper aware of what are you putting in your body and how is that affecting the developing baby who's inside of you. And then when you start breastfeeding, that question doesn't change. What am I putting in my body that's passing through me, through the breast milk, into that baby, right? And if you're using a combination of breast milk and formula, it's still something you want to consider. So it's great to have options that are safe for pregnant nursing as well. What are your thoughts on flu shot and COVID? With my patients, I always go, if you want to, you can always complement. We often treat it as either or. And one of the big things is complement it. If you're using natural health products that are proven that have good data on them, great. It's an even better way to help support your immune system with those natural health products too. Um, are you suggesting to take some of these products daily ongoing? As an example, I've heard that using echinacea for longer than 8 weeks at a time might damage your liver or suppress your immune system. Yes. Okay, great question. So, what I'm really excited to say for that one is we have the most studied cold and flu product in the Canadian market, immune product. That's fantastic. And so, in the clinical research, patients took it every single day for 4 months. In the largest echinacea clinical trial, it was 755 adults in that trial. So 800 of your closest family and friends. And they took echinacea every single day, the echinophores, for 4 months. No one got superpowers. No one grew a third eye. No one got cool gills and suddenly could swim in the water and breathe the water. So they took it every day for 4 months, no ill effect. But not all echinaceas are the same. So depending on the growing conditions, the soil conditions, the um, the rain, how much has it rained in that region and has it diluted the end product? In which case you have to add more plant matter to bring up the concentration of all those active compounds we saw in that video where the echinacea plant blew up into all its active compounds. So not all echinaceas are the same. So ours safe every single day for 4 months. Let you in on a secret. I have been taking it every single day for probably 6 or 7 years, and I have gotten sick once in 4 years, and it was after a really, really tight period of conferences and seminars and really, really busy patient days where everyone was sick. So my body just got burnt out and I couldn't battle back the infection. If you're in the presence of someone who sneezed or coughed near you, what should you take first ASAP after being exposed to possible virus? So the big thing is you've been taking something preventatively. That's how you lower your risk before you even see this person. But now they've sneezed or they've coughed. So that's immediately when I start reaching for my sore throat spray. Because the main thing is I need to protect my mucus barriers at the back of my throat. And if I inhaled it through my nose, maybe my mouth was closed, but I went after they cough sneezed at me, then I'm bringing it through my nose. So what I really want to make sure is the nose will back out. There's a portion called the nasal-oral pharynx. So it's going to go back, 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 and then I hope you can see this on the screen, go down and connect into our throat. So that is kind of the meeting point between the nose and the throat. So if I use my sore throat spray, now I've barriered that. And at least it might reduce what we call the viral load, and if there's a viral load past a certain percentage, then that viral load is actually going to overcome our immune system. So if I can reduce that viral load, my body can actually battle it back. If you use a sleep support, does it become addictive that your body needs it to get a good sleep or get back to sleep? This is a really good question. The big thing is it depends. So I have this conversation with my patients. We treat even melatonin as something kind of benign and cutesy, but it is a hormone. So you are influencing your hormones in your body by taking something like that. The main thing is a lot of the plants and herbs, things like passion flower, which is in a lot of our sleep products, or lemon balm, they influence the GABA system. GABA is really the chemical in the brain. It's the calm down chemical. So it's great for relaxing us. And what's interesting is when you look at things like benzodiazepines, clonazepam, lorazepam, oxazepam, they also act on the GABA system, but they act on a different receptor, which causes some of the withdrawal effects. Benzodiazepine withdrawal is a very real thing. They're acting on the GABA receptors that are the I need this receptors. They are also acting on the effective receptors, and so do the natural health products. But what we see in the research is passion flower, lemon balm, they don't seem to act on the I need it receptor. So you're getting the benefit without the addiction. That's kind of cool. Um, Awesome presentation. Thank you. What do you suggest for post-menopausal lives? Oh, well, here's the full kit. That's a big question. Yeah. The needs, any advice, diet, exercise. Struggling with it getting dark so early that I don't go for walks these days. No evenings, no mornings because it's dark at 6 a.m., which is the only time I can go until 7. Go at 6 a.m. I would say with menopause too, big thing is finding a good community. So I find often we feel like we're going through menopause in isolation. And what's really great is there might even be local health clinics that host menopause talk groups, because your experience of menopause could be completely different from your neighbors, but you're both still going through it. And men, you try to be empathetic, you don't get it. You just don't get it. I always see in the clinic, the husbands sometimes, if it's a husband and wife, they'll come in and he's trying to be super sympathetic, and you just see he doesn't get when the hot flash comes on and your body suddenly goes to 100 degrees and you have to step outside into a blizzard just to cool down because you're literally sweating out of your skin. You don't get it. So the big thing is just looking at diet. So natural phytoestrogens help slow the fall is how I talk to my patients. So the main thing is if your estrogen is declining super quick, this is where all the symptoms come from, that fall. So all we're trying to do is just slow the fall a little bit. The estrogen will decline. That is menopause. Without hormone replacement therapy, it will decline. Let's just slow the fall. So we have like a menopause support product, and it has organic soy isoflavones in it, which are natural phytoestrogens. So they're going to help slow that fall and just reduce the symptoms. Not completely, but if we can cut them in half, even better. Make your life a little bit more bearable. Okay. Let's see. I think those are the questions. Uh, Nose vapor type inhalers for cold. Yeah, so that would definitely be the dry nose relief product and the Cinna product that I talked about earlier. Those are both really, really good. The main difference is Cinna is really good for sinusitis. If you'll remember from the beginning of the presentation, itis is just Latin for inflammation. So if it's sinusitis, where's the inflammation? And if you guess in your sinuses, you guys are right. So the big thing with sinusitis is that's really good for Cinna. You can combine it with any of the Echinophores cold and flu products as your foundation. And then maybe you have a lot of congestion and you're sitting there and you're rubbing your face. I'm trying not to touch it. You're rubbing your face and trying to give it a good massage, but it's not doing it. The Cinna nasal spray, great option. Or, like we talked about, that really, really dry winter air. You can feel it in your home. I've got two of our diffusers on with some essential oils in the background just to humidify the room. And so the dry nose relief, if you've got really dry nasal passages, great way to actually bring down that dryness and protect your mucous membrane. So for sure. What about anything for energy when sick? I would definitely say when we're looking at energy when sick, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You have to kind of think your body is just redirecting energy. So if you've ever put a space heater in a room and you've had your lamps on in the room and you turn that space heater on, especially the old, super inefficient ones, the lights dim, right? You've seen it. I have a space heater nearby and I could probably dim this light a little bit too. It's just redirecting power. So your body is fighting a battle. It's not going to be a time to go garden, to hang out. So it's going to redirect that energy to fighting off the infection. Big way that you can help support it is get a little light exercise in. So again, this is where going back to those walks is really, really important. But another big thing right there is utilizing the Echinophores to just cut the cold and flu duration a little bit and make your symptoms less severe. But if you can actually get in a bit of light exercise, even if it's say 10 jumping jacks, that's going to initiate more circulation in your body. And if we can circulate your immune cells through that infected area more quickly, you will also fight that infection back better. We know that people who exercise around the time of getting sick actually have a shorter infection and a less severe infection. So even if you're feeling like absolute garbage, it might be worth just a short walk or a short little, half kilometer on the treadmill. I'm not saying go for a Usain Bolt run, just a slow pace. You'll get to that half kilometer, whether it takes you 10 minutes or 20. Let me see here. I expected. Oh no. Okay, that's okay if you joined late. It happens. We all forget things sometimes. There is going to be a recording on Healthy Planet's YouTube that you can go back. You can put me to 2 times speed. I won't be offended if you want to get through it really, really quickly. Put me in your headphones, whatever you want to get through the information. The stairs are getting boring, aren't they all? Any other suggestions? Stairs. I mean, I always like being outside, so I'm always gonna go, even if I've done the same circuit around my neighborhood block 150 times, I'm gonna do it again, 151. Um, Big thing too is just add in different movements. So if you have your stairs, maybe it's standing at the bottom, and then well, you can't see the bottom, but if you lift your leg and you're doing light lunges onto the stairs, just a different way to engage muscle groups. I always like having a podcast or something in while I'm doing some light movement. Just kind of helps me distract myself from my body going, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. But a really good opportunity to just almost multitask too. Very informative. Thank you. I've been using a vocal calcium absorber. I and my sons were first on it over 25 years ago, and I still use it off and on. As a senior, I want to ensure I minimize bone density loss. That's amazing. You have an incredible evening too. Thank you so much. I think the big thing we forget too is we live in Canada. And so testing your vitamin D is always a good option. You can guess that you probably need some, but at the end of the day, if you test your blood levels, it costs about, well, at least in Ontario, costs about $40, whether you go through your family doctor or naturopathic doctor, if you're don't have diagnosed bone disorders. It won't be covered by OHIP, but it's so worth it. Because if you read that vitamin D level and you go, oh my gosh, I'm at 15, that's so low. That's clinically deficient. I need to be more around 125, 150. You got some work to do. And that's probably contributing to your fatigue and to all these other things. And then we have also some more tips being shared about walking up the stairs backwards or sideways or planks or dance cardio. You choose your fun. Exercise is only as fun as you make it, and that is saying a lot. So we're hitting 8 p.m. here, folks. I really, really, really wanted to thank you for attending. As always, it means a lot to me that you decided to show up tonight. To those of you who joined in late, don't worry about it. Don't stress. That's why there's a recording. We recognize that everyone has things come up. And with the winter coming, I just wanted to say your car takes twice as long to break. So drive safe, drive slow, get to your destination. And if you're traveling for the holidays, I wanted to wish you all a safe flight. Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Happy Hanukkah. And we will see you at the next one, which I believe is in the spring if you're around. So take care, be safe, and stay healthy. Keep your immune system strong.